This is Will Sellenraad, and welcome to episode 5 of Collector Chassis Story Behind the Collector. Today we are going to interview Paul Pasella, and Paul has just an amazing collection here. Paul, why don't you come on in and say hi to everybody? Really good, Paul.
Well, glad you guys got here.
Oh yeah, well, we're very excited to look at all these cars here. You've got a great garage, a lot of history too, and great stories behind each one of these cars. So
yeah, be happy to take you around.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit about how you got into car collecting?
Yeah, well, I started, I guess I was one of those guys in high school at the, when you had the study hall and I had my book in front of me, but I had a car magazine
inside of the book,
that kind of a
so
thing.
The teacher couldn't see it.
Yeah, so the teacher didn't see me. So, but I've always been into cars. My first car was a 64 Mustang 2+2 that I got, and then I had a Boss 302 in 1970. And I've always been into cars and stuff. And then I got into, about 25 years ago, I started doing some racing and stuff, and been kind of playing with that for a while now too.
Well, and as everybody sees, you have a lot of red cars here, which means Ferrari. So you then gravitated to Ferrari. So you started with muscle cars and slowly gravitated to the Ferrari, to the European cars.
Yes.
Was there a particular reason for that?
Well, my heritage is Italian, so that helped a little bit. And I like the idea that they were hand-built, and the story behind Enzo Ferrari. And it was a different car. You didn't, in my first one, which I bought 30 years ago, it was fairly reasonable at the time. It wasn't crazy money. And I just loved the workmanship of it and the look of it. And so it kind of grew.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. We look forward to looking at each one of these cars. Let's go ahead and get started.
Right here is a 1981 Ferrari 512 BB. It's a carbureted car. It's called a boxer because the 12 cylinders oppose each other and they kind of go like this, so it looks like a boxer on it. There were 929 made of this version, which was a carbureted version, which is the one you kind of want on it. And in the early 80s, late 70s, this was truly the supercar of its time, and I've had this car 25 years now, and it's a terrific car. I'll pop it.
Okay. It's beautiful. I mean, it's the classic red color. And how many cylinders do we have here, Paul?
This is 12 cylinders,
oh my gosh,
380 horsepower.
That is impressive.
And it's a huge engine. It's just, I mean, it's phenomenal, and it's a fun car to drive. It's certainly much more of a car you want out on the highway versus going around town.
How is it to drive this car? I mean, there's no power steering, right?
No, it's maybe one of the tougher cars in this collection to drive. It takes about 20 minutes until the transmission oil gets warm and you can really shift it. But after that, it's a fun car. And taking it out on a run on the highways and stuff, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot different, and it's kind of looks like when people think of a Ferrari, what a Ferrari looks like on it. It's red, it's got the color, and then the whole style of it.
Yeah, the big engine. I love looking at all those carburetors. I mean, keeping those all in tune, is that a challenge?
Well, luckily I have a couple guys that really help me out an awful lot, and they're able to keep it up. And one of the things I found about these carburetors, particularly once they're set, they're usually pretty good. Once you set a Weber carburetor, it's usually stays that way. So, but it's been a great car.
It would be great to start it up at some point and listen to what 12 cylinders sounds like.
Sure.
Paul, so this this is car number 2. Can you tell us about this car, your make and model?
Sure. Again, it's a Ferrari, and it's a 355 Challenge car, 1996. The Challenge was set up by Ferrari to get folks out of the street and onto the racetrack with their cars. So the Challenge cars were set up a little differently. They had the seats, the suspension, the roll bar, slight adjustment to the engine. This is 380 horsepower, 3.5.
So you actually bought this car from Ferrari with the roll bar and the racing seats, or did you do that yourself?
No, it was already done when I bought it. I didn't buy it new. I
Okay.
bought it, yeah. Actually, the 512 PBLM I was telling you about, that I raced. Here's a picture of it right here, actually, on it. We were doing a major overhaul on that, so I bought this so I could keep racing. I didn't want to wait. I didn't want to lose a couple of years.
Yeah. So how long have you been racing?
Probably 25 years now. Yeah,
Okay.
or whatever. On it.
And
So,
are you racing primarily on the East Coast or all over?
East Coast. Yeah,
Okay.
East Coast. And I'm way, I was much more aggressive and doing much more earlier on. And now I do, more or less club events and a few other things. We're going to Sebring next week, actually, with another car that we're going to see in a minute or two.
Okay.
So this was a great car. It's a fun car to drive, very forgiving, and a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
And so what size engine would this car have?
This is a 3.5 liter. It's a 355 engine from the 355 series of Ferrari.
And how many cylinders would that be?
This is 8-cylinder.
Okay. And it's naturally aspirated?
Correct.
Okay, this is car number 3 in Paul's wonderful collection. Paul, can you tell us a little bit about this car, your make and model, and what
Sure.
makes it special?
It's a 2008 599 GTB. I actually got this car because it has the paddle shifters, and I wanted to see what the paddle shifters, how I would like it.
Yeah, because the other 2 cars we just looked at were
everything's a
manual.
manual.
Yeah.
So I just
Right.
wanted to see how I would like it, and I got jealous because I see these guys on a racetrack, and I'm shifting and clutching, and they're just popping the
On the steering wheel.
Yeah, so I wanted to. Plus, it's a wonderful car. I mean, it's got the air conditioning, it's got Bluetooth, it's got all the amenities. 600. The other thing I like is it's a front engine car. It's 612 horsepower, 6.0 liter. 0 to 62 in 3.2 seconds.
Wow.
And it's got a rated top speed of 208 miles an hour. So it was kind of an unusual car for its time. Remember, it was 2008, and I think it has just absolutely gorgeous lines.
Yes.
The pillar in the back and how the aerodynamics of it, and it's just a spectacular car. So
Now, you've owned this car for a while, right?
yeah, I've owned this car. This one I've owned for 5 years now.
Okay.
Yeah, on it.
So it sounds like you're warming to the paddle shifter. It sounds like a car you're going to keep for a while.
Yeah, I don't like to get rid of any of my cars because then I always regret them or whatever. So luckily I don't need, and I have some space here. So no, I'm not. I have no intention of getting rid of it. It's a great car. It's a fun car to drive out east on the island, and again, very comfortable and just an awesome car.
This is a very interesting car. It's not red, for one, and it's not a Ferrari for number 2. So tell us about this one.
Sure. It's a 32 Deuce Coupe, which is the quintessential. It's a 5-window. It's a quintessential hot rod. This is the one that, looking back, that hot rod is most wanted. and it was always on my agenda. I had a 31 Model A pickup. There was a street rod that I had for a while, and this one came from California. The individual was a real estate developer out there. He spent $326,000 building this car to win the Oakland Roadster Show, which he did, by the way, with this particular car. It's a 383 Chevrolet engine in it, 450 horsepower. Everything else has been meticulously gone over, all professionally done. What I liked about it was an all steel body, number one.
That's extremely rare, right? Because everybody's coming out with
modifies
fiberglass.
and then what they do, they chop it and they do a lot of radical stuff to it. And I like this because it wasn't molested in that way, in my view.
Yeah.
It has the original body, and then all the rest obviously is brand new. I like the way the flames were very subtle on it. You know, it doesn't pop out. It's got a 5-speed manual transmission, Trimatic transmission on it, and a Jaguar rear end. It's absolutely chromed out, and it's just a terrific car. And you know, it really turns some heads when they see this. I mean, it's
now, is this a leather interior too?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
everything's
that steering wheel is designed so it looks like it matches the flame.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like a reddish mahogany in there on it, and it's got a sound system in there, 1,000-watt sound system. Not that I ever use it, but.
And I noticed there's no crank for the windows.
All electric. Everything, they go up and down. Matter of fact, that rear window is electric. That pops down as well.
Very cool.
And they did a lot of nice things. It's actually got air conditioning in it. He added air conditioning, and
you have a sunroof.
Yeah, exactly, on it.
So this must drive like a new car almost. I mean,
yeah, it's funny when you sit in this car, you realize how short this windshield is.
Yeah,
I'm not a big guy, but you got to kind of keep your.
Oh, I see. Yeah, you kind of look down because the windshield ends about here, but you still have this headroom up there. Yeah.
Actually, it's interesting. If the movie American Graffiti,
I
you remember that yellow Deuce Coupe? And when he's in it, he's kind of looking down. It looks like, why is he doing that? Because you can't really see out of that. It's kind of an interesting scenario on it.
Now this is a manual transmission too, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And then what's in the back there? Is that a trunk or a rumble seat?
This was a rumble seat.
Okay.
And what they did is they put the gas tank in there. The gas tank on these cars was right back here.
Okay.
Talk about a death trap.
Yeah.
So they removed that and put it in there. Which, to be honest with you, I would have loved to have had the rumble seat, so you take the grandkids out there or whatever. And then you could see underneath here. I mean, this is spectacular. The bottom.
That Jaguar rear end.
Yeah,
is
you
just
can see
beautiful.
the internal disc brakes that are on there. I mean, everything's been chromed out and subtly well done. By some really good craftsmen in the California area.
Okay, so love the Deuce Coupe.
Yeah.
Just an absolutely stunning car, and full documentation on that. So that's a very special car. We have something else here that's very unique and special, and this might also be a one of a one, like the Deuce Coupe. There's no other one like this one. Tell us more about this car, the year, make, and model.
Sure. It's a 1987 Spice is the chassis.
Okay.
Two brothers in England, the Spice brothers, wanted to get into IMSA racing, and they had they built chassis over there, and different engines were put into them. This is one of 3 that were built for GM in 1987, and they got either a Pontiac or a Buick engine in it, usually a V6 at the time or whatever. This raced in IMSA in 1987 and 1988, had a lot of top 10 finishes.
So this is a Ferrari engine in
Yeah,
it?
but this is heavily tweaked. This is 495 horsepower.
Okay.
And this, we raced this engine at 9,200 RPM. So it screams. It screams.
Now you're keeping it at a very high rev while you're racing it too, right?
On this, yeah, you have to, on it.
So where are you typically keeping the revs on a car like this when you're racing it?
Well, you want to wind it out as much as possible. You get an advantage on it. So we're in the 9,000, but it's an incredibly sounding car. This engine was just rebuilt, and we've been playing with it for the last 2 years now. It's a fun car to drive. I'm still in the learning stages of it and getting better and better and more comfortable with it. But it's a really spectacular car.
Now this particular, it's a race car obviously, so you're wearing the full suit in there and the helmet, and there's no air conditioning in this car, correct?
No. When we got this car, it came with a spare engine. It's a 328 Ferrari engine, as is this one. I think I mentioned 355. It's actually a 328 engine, 1 year below. And these engines are tweaked. The normal is about 380 horsepower. We got these up to almost 500 horsepower. Wow. So a lot went into that. Actually, Don, who works on the car, maybe Don, you want to explain a little bit about this engine and how it's been tweaked, and we get that kind of horsepower out of it.
The basic lower portion of the engine is all Ferrari. It's all good stuff. The biggest change are the camshafts, which have been specially ground, and they're almost to Formula One specifications. So with the lift that you get on the valves. The induction system, it's fuel injected, it's electronic fuel injected, but these are Cosworth style injectors on it. They do not have a butterfly that rotates. A butterfly that rotates is always in the airstream of the intake system. This has a flat slide that moves back and forth. It's like a guillotine. And when the throttle is wide open, there is nothing in the way between the intake here and the intake valves down below. It's a nice, beautiful flow down into the engine. And it really helps the performance a lot. When you get up to very high RPM, and they had raced this, and actually about 10,000 RPM was the maximum they used, but not for a long period of time because it's a lot.
Yeah.
Paul is elected to go with 9,200 RPM. The engine is phenomenal in the way it sounds and the way it works. The induction system is fantastic. The exhaust headers, every one of them is an equal tune length. So you're hearing 8 individual cylinders firing. If the order is, if the headers are not all equal tube lengths, then you get the tube lengths interfering with each other. But on this system, you can hear 8 cylinders firing. And at 9,200 RPM, it's music.
It's sweet.
and the reason you detuned it, so to speak, to 9,200 is reliability?
We just put the tachometer, so we won't go beyond that. Yes.
Oh, okay.
We want to get a little more, we don't want to blow the engine. 800 RPM, no big deal. So.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. To the next car we have here, Obviously, I'll just say it's a 308 GTS, right, Paul?
That's good. And we know it's a 78, right?
Ah, perfect. Okay, I should have seen that.
Yeah.
So tell us about this one.
Yeah, this was my first Ferrari. I've had this 30 years.
Oh,
and
nice.
you caught us now because we took the rear bonnet off, and we're doing some maintenance work on it as we speak. Great car. When people think of a Ferrari, a lot of times this is the one that they see the most on TV. White. It's been on a number of shows and stuff like that. Great fun car. The top comes off. That's why it's called the GTS.
Okay.
So you get the best of both worlds, and the top fits in the back.
Is this the
great
Tom
car.
Selleck car then?
Yeah, this is a Tom Selleck car. Yeah.
Okay.
This is what they usually think of.
Yeah.
You know, when they think of a Ferrari, you know, 5-speed, 8-cylinder engine, 3-liter. I think it's 280 horse. Not going to knock your socks off.
Yeah.
But a fun car. I've had it 30 years. Been very reliable, and a great car to drive. You know, in the summer when you got the sun out. A great car.
Like all great collections, there's a final car in the collection, and we always like to save the best for last. And here we have something that's very special. This is not a replica car.
No, it's not.
Paul can attest to that, so tell us more about this beautiful thing.
Yeah, you know, I mentioned before that I was kind of a Ford guy in my early years or whatever, and back then, this was the car. This was the supercar. You know, Howard Shelby took a AC body and put a Ford engine into it, and the rest has been history. You know, there's been a lot written about Carroll Shelby and the Cobras or whatever.
And what kind of material is this? Is this aluminum then? This body? Okay.
Yeah.
This is an all aluminum. This is not fiberglass.
Nope, all aluminum. This originally, this is 329th 289 engine Cobra that came out.
Okay.
And it went to Jack Beasley Ford that was in Altoona, Pennsylvania. And it was a private sponsored drag car.
Okay.
Yeah. And
So it probably looked a little different than this.
yes, it actually was red. We have pictures up on the side because I got a lot of stuff. And it ran, and it was very successful. It did 11.52¼ mile at 126 miles an hour.
Wow.
Back then, that was
Moving.
well, even today, that's a fast car or whatever. And I got this is a California car. It was in California, and I always wanted one. And 30 years ago, I found this one. Flew out there, took a look at it, and fell in love. And it's been a great car.
Now, when you bought it, was it in this condition?
Yes.
Okay.
I always try and buy after it's been restored.
Let someone else do all the
Let
work.
somebody
Yeah.
else. I've done enough restorations that
Well,
you
you-
never get back your total.
Well, you told us about the dues. That was a $325,000
Yeah.
restoration.
Yes.
And I'm sure you didn't pay $325,000
No,
for
I
that.
paid a
So
fraction of
I
it.
get your philosophy. It makes total sense.
And the other
Well-
thing about this car was, you know, it was big money back then.
Yeah.
But these cars have skyrocketed over
yeah.
the years. I never bought it as an investment. I bought it because I wanted it. Actually, every car in here was always bought with the idea that I would use it. I liked it for whatever reason. And I've been pretty fortunate that they've all gone up
Yeah.
significantly in value.
Yeah, that says a lot about the cars that you're choosing,
Yeah,
right? I mean,
yeah.
this is probably appreciating the most of any car in your collection, would you say?
Yes. Although that BBLM race car that I had skyrocketed as well. It
Okay.
got so valuable. It was too valuable. Time to get
Now,
rid
the
of it.
typical Cobra that we see doesn't have this,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So why is that? Why is it just a design preference?
I don't know whether that was the way that they built them with the newer ones with just trying to make it look smoother without it. But the original ones all have. They came to the United States.
I like this. I think it looks really
Yeah,
sharp. And,
yeah.
and a lot of the replicas, they don't even have this grill in there. It's just all open.
There's some truth to it. Some of them do that, but the real good replicas, you have to, it takes a minute or two to go around them to figure out, and they're much more friendly. This has leaf springs in the front.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, so it's pretty cool. It's a fun car to drive. A little quirky, a lot of power in this thing. This is 320 horsepower. This one's been tweak. It's got.
Let's see what that
Yeah.
looks like. Would you say of all the cars, this is the most visceral or the most adrenaline pumping to drive of
Yes.
all of them? Okay.
Well, maybe the race car.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But this one here, because it's got the side pipes and you're open, you're going 20 miles an hour and it sounds like you're going 100. And it's got a tremendous amount of power. Again, power to weight ratio on this thing is phenomenal.
Oh, I'll bet.
You know. With
Yeah,
all
what do
that
you think this
horsepower.
car weighs?
This car is about 1,700 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's an all aluminum body,
Yeah.
which is in gorgeous shape. Someone really put a lot of love and time into painting this car.
Yeah, yeah, and this is, it was, the restoration of this has to be, I've had it 30 years, got to be 40 years ago.
Okay.
I try and keep it, you know, as
Yeah,
pristine
you have the
as
leather
possible.
interior.
Yeah.
I mean, this interior looks
How about
beautiful.
these seat
Yeah.
belts, circa 1964?
Yeah, those
or
are
whatever.
great.
I don't want to
leather.
replace them because I like, you
Yeah.
know, I like the
It's
originality
got that
of it.
vintage look.
Yeah.
And you actually have a trunk in this car,
Yeah,
too.
yeah, there's a
So-
trunk back here. On it, and you know, gas tank you fill there, which is a little inconvenient. I made myself a little piece that fits there.
Oh,
that
when you do
gas
fill it,
doesn't
yeah.
flow over. Yeah.
So premium fuel, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
And manual transmission.
Yeah. Regular four speed.
And you know, when I
Full
look at the
transmission.
pedals here, it looks like it's pretty ergonomic, really. You know, some of the cars, they have a wheel well that comes in and it's hard to get your feet on the pedals,
Yeah.
but it looks good.
Yeah.
It looks like it's...
Yeah. And it still has, I think it's 456 gears in the rear end from
Wow.
the drag days. So, you know, zero to 60 miles an hour, this car is just a knockout. It's just unbelievable. You got to be careful. You go around a turn, you don't hit the gas too much because you'll lose the rear end.
Is that
pretty
right?
quick. Yeah.
How many gears are in this then?
4.
Okay. Right, I love those wheels. Those are the
Yeah, those are
original.
true magnesium wheels, and I have one other set. Also, I was able to get another set because God forbid you crack them, you're
Yeah.
not going to be able to fix them. You can't weld magnesium, so.
Now, sometimes you'll see they have the wires on these to keep them
This
from
does have
turning.
the wires. It's down here. It's right behind my finger.
okay.
Put your finger here.
Oh,
Feel
yeah.
it? Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, just so it doesn't unravel for you.